Bransfield.
I can try and weave an exciting narrative, diving back through the history of games and the importance of boomsticks and other related violence makers to their success before landing on a carefully constructed justification as to why this list is important and worthy. Or I could go with the truth, which is that I wrote this years ago, forgot about it, and on rediscovering it decided that I would finally run with one of my most basic video ideas. An idea I've been pulling out as a joke suggestion for the past 20 or so years to satirise the state of internet-based games journalism and bring about my walloping hammer of satire on those who make their living churning this stuff out. Yes, friends, it's top 10 guns in games time, but with a bit of tweaking, meaning here we are, the 9 best weapons in all the games, according to me and not you. Games journalism at its finest. There was a point in gaming history where developers of not particularly small budget titles, as published by a big old publisher of publishing, would actually do something, well, weird. See, they'd try to be funny. Not just the odd quip here and there cracked. I'm talking equivalent of a Stanley Parable or a Thank Goodness You're Here, just, not indie. Games very much marinated in their comedy, with it proving a core aspect of the game's personality and how you play it. Armed and Dangerous, a woefully overlooked third-person shooter from Planet Moon Studios, published by LucasArts in 2003, fit that brief wonderfully. While that core action centered on toddling around as your team of idiots and provided a rather standard shooter foundation, pretty much everything else around it in the game was, or at least tried to be, funny. Not least of which the weapons. The world's smallest black hole, the land shark, or, hey look, it's my pick here, the topsy-turvy bomb. It's a corkscrew. You stick it in the ground and twist it, you hang on, the entire world flips upside down, dropping all your enemies into the sky. You're still hanging on. The world flips back, dropping all your skyward enemies, well, floorward. You don't need to hang on anymore, and they're all dead. It's creative, it's silly, it's quite funny, and it's one of my favourites from a game that I do think deserves another look from folks the world over. I have never been tased. But like many of my generation have lived the experience through that guy on the meme who did indeed get tased. Bro. As well as via Johnny Knoxville on Jackass. It doesn't look fun. The dearly departed Siphon Filter series, though, took that unfunness to a whole other plane of pain by making a less-than-lethal weapon intended to temporarily stun its target into a pocket-sized, skin-scorching Deathbringer, the likes of which would see its inventor have to rock up in The Hague were it a real thing used in real life. It's a fire, it's a stick in them electrodes, it's a bzzzt, it's a and they're on fire. I know it's hard to tell from the sheer fidelity of the action you are currently seeing on the screen, but this is not actual footage of live war crimes being committed. It is merely the original Siphon Filter for Sony's first of the PlayStations, the PlayStation. As a result, it veers quickly away from being the sort of stuff you need to scrub off with mind bleach and instead becomes a hilarious tool of overpowered destruction you will absolutely use, and use way too much, throughout Gabe Logan's adventures in espionage. Where Solid Snake would hide in a box and engage in flashy, close-quarters, hand-to-hand combat to subdue a foe, leaving behind him a crumpled, unconscious heap and making barely a sound. Our boy Logan opts for the much more US-approved approach. Electrocute them with such intensity that they set on fire and die. I'm Gabe Logan, and welcome to Jackass. There's a lot of love in the Bransfield household for Bullfrog's 2 games of corporate knobheadery dialed up to 12, Syndicate and Syndicate Wars. Imagine if I remembered to make a link to my video about the series, including Starbreeze's Swing and a Miss FPS, pop up on this here video right now. Just imagine how smart and seamless a bit of cross-promotion that would be. No? Oh. Syndicate Wars is a wonder, as far as I'm concerned. It has its naysayers, it has its drawbacks, it fails in some ways, sure, but the thick and juicy atmosphere, the relative freedom to approach missions as you see fit, the properly nihilistic view of where humanity's future will take it, which, to be fair, we're watching play out in real time, it all brings together otherwise disparate elements into a glorious mix of urban pacification and proselytizing. Would you believe it, from the topic of this video, another thing that makes Syndicate Wars special is its weapons. And the one most special, as far as I'm concerned, is a little tube of joy you can lob into the fray to bring about chaos and annihilation in equal measure. Its name? Cataclysm. Alright, it's actually called a nuclear grenade, but that's both too obvious and way too boring a title. Plus, the voiceover in the game itself says Cataclysm when you pick it, so we'll go with that. And your little throwable A-bomb isn't just a daft wee gimmick, this is a useful, extremely powerful, and absurdly satisfying area of effect / structure destroyer bomb that you keep in your pocket. Whopping a cataclysm towards a bank you want to rob before running in and mopping up the few guards left who managed to avoid the blast damage and then nabbing all the briefcases of cash left in the rubble, well, that's just special. The gravity gun is one of the best things in anything, but it's not specifically a weapon. It's a tool. Not a tool like I am, a tool like a hammer, which itself is foreshadowing all over the place. But the gravity gun can be wielded as a weapon, wrenching heavy objects off the wall to lob them at pesky alien fascists with huge force. It's often, always hilarious, as well as very useful. But it's in Ravenholm where the gravity gun becomes something truly special. A maze of headcrab sporting ex-people, death-inducing traps, and never quite enough ammo to deal with all the bad bastards in your way. The reason we don't go there is very much apparent from the moment your silent mouth and gorgeous goatee arrive in the dilapidated hellscape of a former town. But see, Ravenholm has saw blades. A lot of saw blades. Saw blades that can be whopped up, technical term, and pushed out towards incoming zombie-like baddies with gusto. What that results in is twofold. 1, an immense sense of satisfaction, and B, 2 pieces of once ambulatory enemy creature folded over. Sure, the gravity gun becomes a complete power trip at the end of Half-Life 2, and that is fantastic. It's a direct acknowledgement that you, the player, would want and expect everything you wield in the game to be a straightforward shoot, swing, or throw item intended to inflict direct damage. You've endured hours of the gravity gun being more a method of indirect violence and puzzle solving, but now it's just a big nasty gun that vaporizes every bugger in your way. That's great. A truly, genuinely wonderful power trip payoff, rewarding the player for putting their time and effort into the game. But for me, it's Ravenholm that makes the 0-point energy field manipulator one of the true greats. Spooky, unnerving, terrifying Ravenholm. I've a bit of a thing for shotguns in video games and have managed to narrow it down to the 2 that are in this list. 2 in a list of 9. Anyway, this specific shotty doesn't quite get the love it deserves, I feel, especially given it's such a ridiculous and transformative, in more ways than one experience, during Capcom's once best in the series. Resident Evil 2, you see, has 2 scenarios for each of its 2 characters. You play the A scenario as the character you choose, Leon or Claire. You follow their story, each one being different to the other. Same overall stuff going on, but some different characters, interactions, routes, puzzles, and so on. Leon meets Ada, Claire meets Sherry. Leon goes left, Claire goes right. Small but notable enough changes to who does what. You then have the B scenarios, unlocked after finishing the game with each character. These allow you to play through Claire's story as Leon, and Leon's story as Claire, thus getting to see what each originally unpicked character got up to off-screen in those first playthroughs. It's a really great feature that I genuinely still love to this day, and it's really sad that the proper A-B scenarios with their bigger changes for each playthrough didn't return for the Resi 2 remake. But that's getting off the point. One massive reason I do still love the alternate playthroughs is because in Leon's B scenario, you get access to the shotgun parts. Combine these parts with your original police issue protest pacification tool and you get the C shotgun. Custom? combat, cool. No idea. C shotgun. And when you get the C shotgun, you go from this to this. It shunts the shotty from a useful weapon into a lived experience. The blast, accompanied by a suitably chonky sound effect, absolutely eviscerating the zombies in your way, even knocking young Leon back a step thanks to the raw power of this very silly gun. Resident Evil 2's shotgun is good. Resident Evil 2's C shotgun, it's a work of art. I've a lot of time for the Saints Row series, and there's a comment that might age badly should the 2022 game, upcoming at the time of writing this script, turn out to be a big pile of pump. Record scratch! You might be wondering why I left that line in there. But Saints 2, 3 and 4 all live on in my mind as purveyors of true silly greatness. Shonky around the edges and nowhere near the refinement of Grand Theft Auto, but unburdened with the need to be performatively cool or edgy or made by Rockstar. Saints Row the 3rd and Saints Row 4 are up there with my favourites of all time, and a big reason for this is the fact you can click in the right stick on your controller and have your character punch or kick almost anybody in the crotch. In Saints Row the 3rd, this is funny, while also at times genuinely useful, especially in getting you out of a scrape. It's a legitimate technique you might want to pull off at times, as well as being hilarious to just deck someone's dick with a swift punt. It fits in with the scrappy gang fight aesthetic and makes sense as the sort of thing the Saints would employ in their fisticuffs when all the guns and rockets and running people over fails. Saints Row 4, meanwhile, and just as with everything else in this expansion pack that pretended it was a full sequel, took it to a whole new level. You get superpowers, see? And there are phenomenally fun aspects of Saints 4 as a result, like your super jump / glide ability that acts as a sort of flying. It's a wonderful way of navigating the world, easily on a par with something like Insomniac's Spider-Man's. You run dead quick. There's other stuff that's completely evaporated from my mind, but it's there. And you also have super-powered dick punchers. How could I not think this is one of the best things in all of games? I am but a mere mortal, endlessly amused by the concept of attacking crotches in video games, and Saints Row 4 caters to my obvious innate desires to deliver cartoonish levels of violence on extraterrestrial groins. Absolutely no idea what that says about me as an individual. If you brought out a sequel today and it only had one new gun in it, there'd be a campaign of death threats against the development team's families, resulting in at least 3 swatting events and potentially jail time for one true gamer among the hate group. I may have entirely made up that scenario, still I'm confident enough to say it is pure fact. But Doom 2 released with a bunch of new levels, a smattering of new enemies, and just the one new gun, the Super Shotgun. And it was all the more perfect for it. See, original Doom's lineup of hand cannons was already spectacular, from the chainsaw through the standard shotgun onto the rocket launcher and plasma rifle, and the BFG 9000, they were all great. Apart from maybe the pistol, nobody really cared much for that. Even regular punching got good when you picked up a Berserk pack. It was a wide enough selection, it offered enough variety to let you mix things up as you saw fit, and demanded you look to different strategies as you went along, be it because of a different enemy encountered or simply by running out of ammo. Your guns in Doom were a balanced lot, and helped to make it one of life's finest experiences. Point being, Doom 2 didn't do much to the formula because it didn't need to. At the same time, Doom 2 did add the Super Shotgun, and if it hadn't done that, then life would barely be worth living right now. It is one of the most wonderfully designed pieces of nonsense ever committed to the digital realm. A mega blast of 2 shotgun shells spread far wider than the original sniper rifle aping shotty, resulting in little other than a quick death for the vast majority of enemies in 1, 2 or 3 shots. Added into the mix was the sound. Oh my, the sound. Just wonderful. I swear I am not sexually attracted to the Super Shotgun. Probably. There's been a lot of worms in the decades since that first in the series came out, and in that time there's been hundreds, maybe thousands of ways of dispatching your annelid opponents and teammates. ranging from shooting them in the face to dropping a concrete donkey on them, and plenty of other wild and wacky, you can't see it but I capitalised those words to give them impact, weapons. But through all of that, all the different ways in which we've been able to violently eject bloodthirsty pink tubes, there's only ever been one winner in the minds of many, and by many I mean me. It's the prod. I'd prefer if it was called the poke, because that's what I thought it was called, but it's the prod. The prod is what it says, and it's absolutely superb. No other weapon in any Worms game, in any multiplayer combat game period, can compare with the sheer bollocks out bullshittery of wriggling over to a friend, or enemy, or the computer if you like me and have nobody nearby to play with, and simply prodding them. Do it in the middle of a landlocked level, you've wasted a turn. Come up short and miss with your prod, you've wasted a turn. Connect when your opponent is standing on the edge of a cliff, the instant death of water lying below, you won't have wasted a turn. You'll have given yourself something to laugh about, hard, for a long time to come. The prod is almost the perfect weapon. Pure troll fodder. The sort of thing your opponent has to sit and watch as you edge towards them, slowly but surely getting ready to make contact with the finger poke of doom. Their frustration rising as they scream at you for not just being normal and using a shotgun or airstrike or other far less humiliating method with which to dispatch them from this wormy coil. Yes, the prod is absolutely the best weapon in all of the Wormses. Blammo! Here we go with the foreshadowing payoff, which you've likely forgotten about by now. I mentioned hammers when talking about the gravity gun, and now this is a hammer. What quality writing skills I allow you people in on. Anyway, this is also not a lie or a joke on my part. The best weapon from Red Faction Guerrilla is a hammer. There's also a hammer that's an ostrich, which is a nice callback to an era when things weren't as terrible and on fire as they are now, what with it starting life as a joke on the internet forum and ending up as something the devs actually put in the game. But the vanilla hammer is good enough, even if it doesn't look like D. Reynolds. My love for this weapon comes from the fact that Guerrilla's sledgehammer, and its multiple variants, is one of the most satisfyingly well-made things in all of the games. You're making a game with a heavy focus on physics-based destruction, so what's the best thing to give your players? Guns are boring and hands-off. Shooting a missile at something in the distance and watching it pop and crumble is all well and good, but surely you'd want to be a bit more up close and personal with the demolition efforts. In Syndicate Wars, you were in throwing range. In Red Faction Gibbon, you were in swinging range. Smacking and smashing your way through the many destructible constructs on Mars never, ever gets old. The satisfaction of the swing and dull thud, thwacking away at any and all in your way and ultimately reducing all but the hardiest of buildings to a pile of its constituent parts. It's an oddly tactile experience, with the weight of the hammer given real oomph. The effort main character and human thumb Mason is having to put into his delightful deconstruction something you can feel. It gets the blood pumping in a way lots of other more traditionally exciting experiences in games don't. For me, that is. You may well just not be as weird as Bransfield, who apparently sometimes speaks about himself in the third person too. I still love Red Faction Gojira now, and the game's about 300 years old. Can't get enough. I'd do a 3-hour video on how great it is, but I don't have the focus, so just take my word on the game's greatness. The hammer itself is backed up by traditional guns as well as explosives, including the incredibly satisfying explosives, but it's the hammer that always gets my vote. And the ostrich hammer is also still really funny. Hammers. Thanks for watching. Extra special thanks to my supporters who are all on Patreon, but I'll still mention YouTube memberships anyway. You are the additional parts to the unmodified shotgun that is my life. Kablamo! I'm off to listen to an 8-hour supercut of different video game shotgun sound effects. Bye! Yeet.